Hi, I'm Anders Wallgren, VP of Technology Strategy at CloudBees. And today I'm going to talk about audit-ready pipelines, how we can use automation and orchestration to make our audit processes more predictable and easier to deal with. And what we really want to get to in terms of a desired state here, I'm just going to start with that, is really kind of think about our pipelines, our end-to-end pipelines, our release pipelines, as being kind of the core, the heart of our audit trail, and build from there. And what we want to achieve, and what I'll talk about how to achieve today, is really using that connected tool chain with immutable objects as the core of how we do this orchestration, and then build in both automated and manual approval gates, collecting evidence along the way. And then the outputs of all of our commands that we're running as part of our software pipeline release process, that's going to be captured in a common data repository. So that's available later for closer inspection. All of the actions that we're taking, all of the automations that we're running, all of the artifacts that we're producing are going to be governed by centralized role-based access control or access control lists. And part of our goal here is to provide end-to-end visibility over not only what is our process, but what were the results of running our process, and collect data, metadata, evidence links, all of that kind of stuff along the way, so that at the end, we have a one-click automated audit report with data that we trust. So the current state of audit for many of us is a little bit more complicated and manual and fraught with uncertainty than that. We typically will get an email at the end of the quarter saying, "Guess what? It's time to do audits! Yay!" And then you kind of have to leap into action. And if you have a software pipeline that's fragmented, into sort of islands of automation, as I like to talk about, then you've got to go manually retrace all of your steps and manually go between all the different tools that you use in your tool chain in order to build, test, qualify, release, and deploy your software. And that's going to, that's a little bit of a challenge, right? Because you've got to go into your issue tracking tool to figure out what's the change request that's involved here. I've got to go look at the production systems and see what did we deploy into production. I've got to look at the deployment tools I'm using and make sure that everything worked fine there. Look at my CI tooling, figure out what went into the build, look at my SEM system to figure out what code changed, all of those kinds of things. And it's a manual process, right? And that leaves us with kind of a challenge, right? Because with this disconnected process, disconnected sets of tools, the data scattered all over the place. We've done a pretty good job the last 10 or 15 years with Agile, with DevOps, with DevSecOps, and so on, at kind of uniting the cultures a little bit more and tearing down the cultural silos, the organizational silos that we built up over the years in the old ways of doing things. But now what we still have is we're still kind of challenged by this tool silo, the data silo, where we have to go hunt and peck around to find all of the relevant data that we need, whether it's for audit processes or process improvement or what have you. And so that makes it very difficult to get a really nice traceable set of data, proof other than kind of the attestation methods that we use these days, which is basically just somebody saying, "Yeah, I did it." Which, as long as you trust that person, that's great. But attestation is probably not good enough these days. And particularly, we can do better, right? We have the ability to collect data from a specific tool saying, "Here's what we did. Here's the configuration we used to do it. Here's the output," and automatically prove and decide that we've passed an audit or control requirement and move on, to the next stage in the pipeline, if you will. So the risks that we have in this disconnected space that we have, and by the way, the problem is not that we're using a lot of different tools here. The problem is that there isn't one way that we can collect and manage and govern all of the things that happen around that. So this is not an argument for, just put everything into one tool and you'll be happy. We absolutely, I believe certainly that best of breed tooling for all of the spot places where we need tools and platforms to build and deliver our software is definitely the way to go. But we do need to have this kind of overall kind of end-to-end approach, an Uber orchestrator, if you will, to make sure that we have one pane of glass through which we can look at all of this data. And when I show you a little bit what that looks like in real life, you'll see a little bit more what I mean about that. So the risks that we have in our current processes, right? We're going to spend more time on this than we want. We spoke to a release manager, one of our customers, who said they collect audit data weekly. They analyze it every couple of weeks to produce a monthly audit report. And that process takes them about 18 hours to do. So in other words, several days of time is spent doing this. And most of it is just sort of the manual grunt work of collecting the data, collating the data, making sure we didn't miss anything, all of those sorts of things. And then that introduces errors, that introduces cost. And if you have to go chase down data for things that happened, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you're gonna piss people off, right? You're gonna have disgruntled developers who are being distracted from their task at hand, or disgruntled ops people who you're pulling them off the task at hand and asking them to answer questions about what happened 2 weeks ago. Nobody wants to do that, and as a result of that, you may end up failing audits. You may end up failing to satisfy your control requirements because you might have incomplete data or suspect data, and that's not the place we want to be, right? We really want to be using the pipeline tooling, the orchestration tools, the orchestration platforms that we're using to create and use audit-ready pipelines. And so I'm going to go through a little bit of a real life or more real life example here. But first, kind of just a quick review of what it is that we're